Hi, PerspectaWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday, October 24th. It's a calm and chilly morning here in the Mid-Atlantic region and quite a calm day throughout much of the eastern U.S., but there's a lot of weather going on elsewhere and a lot to talk about over the next few minutes. First of all, we have a tropical system in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico that will contribute to some significant rainfall down across the south central U.S. over the next couple of days into the Ohio Valley, and some of that rainfall can actually extend into the eastern U.S. All of this will merge with a west to east moving cold frontal system, and we have some unusual early season snow today in the Panhandle region of Texas, and this is really just the opening salvo of quite a cold shot for the middle part of the nation. Tremendous cold a shot coming to the Rockies and the Central Plains during the early and middle part of next week. That will be associated with more accumulating snow for the Rockies into the northern plains, and unquestionably it looks like this will be cold enough to cause some record low temperatures in the early and middle part of next week, at least across the central U.S. and the Rocky Mountain states. Eventually that colder air filters into the eastern U.S. in a modified form. Looks like arriving late next week, perhaps right around Halloween Day, which is next Thursday. It could start to shift to that colder air mass in the eastern part of the nation. But for the next couple of days, pretty nice weather for the Mid-Atlantic region. Well, let's start off in the tropics here, the southwestern part of the Gulf of Mexico. Quite an impressive system right now. It's getting a little better organized, at least in the overnight hours and into the morning hours. A little better organization. Whether or not it ever reaches named tropical storm status is questionable, but regardless, it continues to move slowly to the north, and again will kind of merge with a cold frontal system and produce some significant rainfall over the next few days, especially from the northern Gulf of Mexico into the Ohio Valley. And some of that rainfall with that frontal system will move into the eastern U.S. Latter part of the upcoming weekend. Well, here's the official position by the National Hurricane Center of NOAA, based in Miami, and again it has the wave down in the southwestern part of the Gulf of Mexico, general northward movement, and there will be a frontal system that will be driving basically from the northwest to the southeast over the next few days, and this rainfall will get merged basically with that frontal system, and we'll see in a moment here a huge area of heavy rainfall right in this region right here, partly as a result of that tropical system merging with the front as it slowly presses to the east. And some of that rainfall moves into the I-95 corridor region during the day on Sunday. Well, here is in fact a 5-day total precipitation forecast map from NOAA. Generally appears to be right on target here for what I expect over the next 5 days. A couple things to point out. First of all, this significant rainfall, again related to that tropical system over the Gulf of Mexico, situated in the southwestern Gulf. It'll basically move to the north and northeast and merge with a west to east moving cold frontal system. Very heavy rain from the northern Gulf all the way up into the Ohio Valley, and some of that rain makes it all the way into the I-95 corridor region during the upcoming weekend, mainly on Sunday, although there'll be some shower activity later Saturday into Saturday night in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. The heaviest rain looks like it'll come on Sunday as that frontal system presses towards the east coast, but again a significant rain event for much of the eastern third of the nation, partly as a result of that tropical wave now getting a little better organized in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. Well, here's the current surface map. High pressure in control in the Mid-Atlantic region. It kind of moved overhead in the overnight hours. That allowed winds to calm down with clear skies. Really a perfect setup for radiational cooling. And some of the Philly suburbs this morning are in the middle 30s. Many areas close to the 40-degree mark as we begin the day. But with plenty of sunshine, afternoon temperatures should rise to the upper 60s, maybe touch 70 degrees in parts of the I-95 corridor. Little to no wind to speak of with this high pressure in control. Meanwhile, out in the south central U.S., low pressure forms along this cold frontal system, and there's a real cold air mass for this early in the season on the backside of that low pressure area, and even some snow falling right now in this area right here, and really could come together later today in the northern Panhandle region of Texas with some accumulating snow. And we're still in the month of October. This is certainly unusual to see accumulating snow all the way down into the Panhandle of Texas. And again, this is really just the opening salvo in a cold weather pattern for the middle part of the nation. A very, very cold air mass for this time of the year arrives late in the week and early part of next week, first in the Rockies, and then spills that over throughout the Central Plains. Expect some record low temperatures to be set next week, and more accumulating snow in places like Wyoming, all the way cutting across to the northern plains, and we'll get more into that over the next couple of minutes. Well, here's the latest radar loop from WSI's and telecast.com. Nothing going on precipitation-wise in the Mid-Atlantic region. Again, a dry day, a pleasantly cool afternoon after this chilly start in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Again, high temperatures flirting with the 70-degree mark in some spots. But look at what's going on out in the middle of the country. Again, snow right now in the southeastern part of Colorado, western part of Nebraska, and again later today there could be accumulating snow all the way down into the Panhandle region of Texas. Quite unusual for the latter part of October. Well, let's walk through last night's 6E GFS model run, and let me point out right at the start here, the GFS has consistently pushed a colder air mass that will first plunge into the Rockies and Central Plains early next week. It has persistently pushed it into the eastern U.S. quite quickly compared to the European model, for example. And in the Tuesday-Wednesday time frame of next week, and GFS kind of has a bias, kind of progresses cold air intrusions a little bit too quickly. I'm kind of leaning more towards the latter part of next week for the colder air to make it into the eastern U.S. In other words, agreeing more with the European model than the GFS model, but nonetheless, let's walk through this from last night's 6Z run. High pressure starts off the day sitting right on top of the Mid-Atlantic region. Again, it allowed winds to calm down overnight. Good night for radiational cooling, and as low as like 34 degrees last hour in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, 25 miles or so to the northwest of Philly. That high pressure dominates not only today but tomorrow as well. By the way, the weather looks pretty nice for the World Series game number 3 tomorrow evening in Washington, D.C. We'll see that in a moment here. Snow right now across southeastern Colorado. As we press forward here, really intensifies as that system drops to the south and east. Northern Panhandle of Texas gets accumulating snow later on today. Very nice in the Mid-Atlantic region with pleasantly cool, calm conditions. Let's move forward now into the day on Friday. And here we go, that tropical wave pushing moisture all the way into the northern Gulf of Mexico. As we move forward here, we'll see some significant rainfall, and low pressure rides up along this frontal boundary zone right into the Ohio Valley. This is the forecast map for Saturday morning. There'll be a warm frontal system extending to the east from this low pressure system, and eventually that moistens up the atmosphere in the I-95 corridor region. There can be few showers later Saturday night in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City metro region. Doesn't look like anything significant at that time. There's game 4 in the Washington, D.C. area for Saturday evening. Probably rain will only be a nuisance, and they'll get the game in on Saturday. Again, that's game 4 Saturday night in D.C., but heavy rainfall in the Ohio Valley. And then as we get into the day on Sunday, some of that rainfall presses to the eastern seaboard. Again, the threat exists for showers later Saturday night in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor, and then occasional rain on Sunday. The heaviest rain over the weekend looks like it'll be during the day on Sunday as this front moves from the west to the east towards the eastern coastline. Then that looks like that gets on out of here. by a Monday or so. And again, GFS really pushes this cold shot rather quickly into the Midwest. And here we go. This is the forecast map from the 6Z GFS model run. Cold frontal system right now in the eastern part of the Great Lakes. Low pressure out ahead of it, and then it swings that colder air mass into the east during the day on Wednesday. Maybe a day or two too quick compared to the other models, for example. And the GFS tends to have kind of a progressive bias that pushes along systems a little bit too quickly sometimes in the medium term. So despite the fact that the GFS shows it turning colder here, let's say Wednesday or Thursday of next week, it may be a little bit too quick. That colder air may wait till Thursday or Friday of next week to reach the Mid-Atlantic region. Well, in fact, let's wrap up with a look at the European model in terms of the temperature changes across the nation over the next several days. Excuse me, this is the ensemble run of the European from the overnight hours, 0Z, and let's just take a look. We'll move along in 24-hour increments. This forecast map is for tonight, Thursday evening. Again, a significant cold shot for the south central U.S. today, and it could be accumulating snow in the Panhandle of Texas. Let's now move forward here, and we'll actually stay normal to above normal over the next couple of days in the eastern third of the nation. Here comes that next cold shot. This is Sunday night's forecast map. 850 millibar temperature anomalies. Just a couple thousand feet up. Gives a good indication as to what might happen at the surface level and kind of smooths things out, so it's a little bit more pleasing to look at than the 2 meter temperature anomalies. But here we go. A very, very significant cold shot coming into the Rockies by the early part of next week and then spilling over into the Central Plains. And this is some impressive cold. This is way, way, way below normal for this time of the year. This is Tuesday night's forecast map. Unquestionably, some record low temperatures will be associated with this shot of cold air. Still warm in the east. And again, this is the time frame that the GFS model had the cold air moving into the eastern U.S. I don't think so. I think it's more likely to hold off as the European is depicting here. This now goes all the way out to a week from now, next Thursday evening, which happens to be Halloween Day, next Thursday, the 31st of October. And this is perhaps the transition time for the cold air to finally move into the east in a modified form. It won't be nearly as far below normal as it will be in the central part of the nation or the Rockies. Nonetheless, colder air does finally make it into the Mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S., by the end of the work week next week, maybe in time for Halloween night, if not then by the next day. But the big news will be this significant cold shot, first in the Rockies and then the Central Plains during the latter part of the weekend, the early to middle part of next week. Expect some record low temperatures to be set, perhaps over a widespread area. So a lot going on from the tropics to the Arctic here. And a lot of weather to talk about across the continental U.S. over the next several days. That's it for now. I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian for PerspectaWeather.com.